Hello and welcome, guys. Today we're doing an exciting AMA with Art Malkov and Fred Choo. Now, Art Malkov is the former CMO of PolyMarket. He also was a founding member of IoTex, so he has a deep history in the world of Depin. Talking about Fred Choo, he is a co-founder of D3, who is responsible for the launch of Doma, a blockchain for the internet. They are tokenizing millions of domains natively on their platform. Art recently acquired the domain Depin.ai, and that is going to be the main focus of this AMA because there is going to be a fair launch hosted on the Doma blockchain. With this fair launch, it is Tuesday, December 30th, giving any of you guys the ability to buy a subdomain, whether that be the Depin.ai, gpu.depin.ai, etc. For anybody that does participate in this fair launch, not only are you going to be able to have your very own custom Depin.ai domain, but you also are going to be having a share of the overall Depin.ai domain. So if it sells later on in life, you will have profit sharing. So all in all, super exciting. The overall concept of the Doma blockchain has such immense use case. That's why I'm excited to sit down with Fred Choo and Art to discuss this upcoming fair launch. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the video and see what's going on. Welcome everybody. Here we have Art, the original CMO of PolyMarket and owner of Depin.ai. We also have Fred here from Doma. We're going to go ahead and dive right into it. So first question here for Art. We wanted to know a little bit more about your experiences being the first CMO of PolyMarket, as well as what your plans are with being the owner of Depin.ai.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, thank you for having me here. Super excited. Always love to share, Web3 insights and just things that happening. So always happy to have this conversation. So my background is before CMO of PolyMarket, I've been in marketing. I actually dealt with domains. In fact, fun fact, I helped acquire PolyMarket.com. So it was not PolyMarket originally. It was poly.market. And then I had to go and find how to acquire it. So story for another time. Won't go too much into it. But at PolyMarket, really, a lot of stuff what I seen is that we were at the ground floor. It was a new industry. Prediction markets did not exist. There was no such thing as prediction market. And it was like, PolyMarket, let's try to figure out what happens. And after PolyMarket, I went to IoTex, which actually was the original Depin, one of the original Depin companies before it was called Depin. In fact, I was part of the campaign of it's called MachineFi, where when I joined IoTex, we were 200 million, and then we hit $2.5 billion within 6 months because people were really excited what is possible to do with those smart devices, right? Machines, wallets. And since then, I been co-founded Lever.io, but also I'm advisor at Techstar Accelerator for Web3, so mentoring different Web3 companies, and Columbia University, Web3 Accelerator, as well as write occasionally for Forbes on Web3 space.
Love it. Next up, let's go ahead and talk to Fred a little bit about Doma, who is going to be launching the tokenization of Depin.ai. Fred, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. Good to see you guys. It's a little dark over here, but 6 a.m. in the morning, calling from the car. So my name is Fred Choo, CEO, co-founder of D3. D3 is a tech company. We're launching Doma. Doma is the world's first blockchain for the internet. Our mission is to tokenize all the domain names in the world. So think about just under 400 million like real domains like .com, .ai, and quickly growing over the coming years. I've been in the tech space for about 25 years, started my first Web 1 company, which was actually, sure enough, a big domain company back 25 years ago. Did that for about 10 years. Then I did a Web 2 company in San Francisco. Both were relatively successful. Now I'm on Web 3. That seems to be the progression of my career. So very, very happy to be here and talk about domains once again.
Absolutely. You have quite the experience. That's actually really, really awesome. You bring a very welcomed expertise to the field coming into Web3. I like it. Next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about the basics. Why do you think we should tokenize domains in the first place? And walk us through some of the different mechanics that go into the tokenization of these different domains and why someone might be interested in buying Depin.ai.
I could
I
quickly
think
talk. Yeah, I
yes,
could
Fred,
quickly
please.
mention just on tokenization. I would love your thoughts too, Art, being holding such a great domain name here and being such a veteran yourself. But my perspective is tokenization really is just enabling tech. If you look at the markets of trillions of dollars of equities, bonds, real estate, commodities, oil, gold, the futures, whatever, everything's already digitized, right? You can only kind of, if you remove blockchain itself, it kind of makes sense in this day and age to digitize stuff, right? Doesn't matter what it is. Domain names have been around for what, 35, 40 years? And for the most part, it's been done, they've been managed through APIs that are relatively ancient. And so when I go back to blockchain or tokenization, I really just think about like database 3.0. I was a computer science major in college. I was managing server farms since I was 19 years old, and it's all pretty much relatively basic. So it's not about the technology, it's about technology for a means, right? The end here is bring more liquidity and more sort of programmability to this asset class that really hasn't been there before. So if you think about, hey, I would love to trade, buy a piece of, I'd like to maybe even borrow, lend against a domain name. I cannot do that today for domains. However, I can do that with my home, right? Something that's really physically tougher, I'd say, and obviously worth a lot of money. But it's kind of weird. I just can't do it for my domain. So that's kind of what we started off with. To answer your question as well on how it works is you just basically click a button at your registrar. So I should check to see where Depin.ai is. I believe it's at a Doma integrated registrar right now, but it should be as easy as clicking a button to tokenize and bring liquidity and programmability to your domain name. What does that mean? It means you can get instant settlement if someone wants to buy a piece or all of your domain. It means you can, if I wanted to buy fred.dpin.ai, I can do so using my crypto wallet, right? Soon to be fiat as well. So I kind of preserve that kind of utility, but also I can have that value, whether that value is social or I want to use it for my website or even map to my wallet address. This is something that never was possible before, go backing up 35, 40 years ago, but it's now possible with Doma.
Love it. Now, this is kind of a side question, but did you mention fractionalized for the domain names? Like, is that going to be an option where there can be fractionalized shares of each domain?
Well, as Art mentioned, from my perspective, I like to use tokenization for a means like a utility. Uh, there could be millions, tens of millions of subdomains, for example, on dpin.ai. I think that's very aligned with our thinking. And if you want to call that fractionalization, sure.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, it's really much just taking like a asset and allowing as many people to own it and use it as possible.
I
I
love
know
it.
fractionalization has different meanings to different people. I just like to just get at what it is. I want to own. I want to trade. I want a piece of this awesome domain name.
Right, and it kind of reminds me of the initial craze when .eth first going started happening. Everybody was chasing the lowest letters, 3 or 4 or 5 letters .eth, and that might be the case here with Depin AI. Everybody chasing to get the shortest, nicest name. So the next question is for Art. So you did acquire Depin.ai, and I did have a quick question of why didn't you want to hold it privately or sell it on the side? What drew you to Doma's approach with this tokenization?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I want for anybody who doesn't know what is Depin, I will just quickly define it's decentralized physical infrastructure. So, which is really a huge sector, like $15 billion sector right now in Web3. So it's a massive sector, right? So an idea is that Depin AI is intersection. And how I run into it is I actually looked because I was IoTeX early on. I was there at 2021, 2022, and I realized how much of a value there are. There are billions of devices that need wallets, that need some sort of input but NAI is just a natural input into it. So I have seen from the inside just how much demand and interest there is. And so with Depin.ai, I remember thinking, like, it was early in the days. It was it was after IoTeX, and I remember AI was already, it wasn't popular yet, but it was kind of starting to get hit up, and I actually had to go and acquire it from another investor, and it was not easy. It took a while because I saw that it's such a amazing name that feeds sector of what potential will be trillions of dollars. So my view of it is, well, if we're going to tokenize something, why not, put the asset where my mouth is? Why don't we start and have a case study, use case of decentralized domain, right? For that can be tokenized. So Depin.ai to me was an asset. And I met Fred, by the way, at his conference in last year. They had a Doma tokenized conference in Las Vegas. I was in Vegas for another conference, and I stopped by and I met him, and I really liked the idea of it. And so we kind of kept in touch. And so now we're here. Depin.ai is rolling out on Tuesday, this Tuesday, in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah.
Very, very exciting with that upcoming launch on Tuesday. You did just mention that you were the head of marketing for IoTeX during the ground zero of this Depin movement. And I'm curious how that experience led you to have that deep conviction that Depin.ai would become valuable.
Oh, absolutely. Well, seeing it, like how we're building, how technology was being built, how companies are starting to use, at the time it wasn't called Depin, we were calling it machine fi or IoT version of it, where like connected devices, how like right now we have dozens of connected devices. Like I think average US household has close to like 1 or 2 dozen devices. I don't remember exact numbers, but they're growing. Every year there are more devices. We have this smart phones, smart clocks, smart microwave, smart everything. At this point,
Everything.
like a sprinkler who's smart.
Yep.
Like, and seeing that companies are really want to be part of that. They want to. They don't want to be hacked. The problem with what Depin allows is you can have security of. Even if you hack one device, you cannot hack million devices. Whereas the problem for big companies, if you hack their centralized database, they're done. So when you have so many devices that need to interact with each other, that have wallets, all that is impossible without Web3. And Depin is basically kind of encapsulates this machine economy in one sector. So to me, Depin.ai is like, what do you have? Depin is machines, right? And AI is what powers the machines. So ability of allowing the wallets and AI and machines could come together in this one sector is like, I think it's going to be in the multi-trillion dollar in probably 10 years from now.
Fred, did you have anything to add to that? Or did that about sum it up?
Yeah, as Art mentioned that, I just thought about all the devices I have at home. There's got to be more than 20 or 30. And guess what? They all
Everything's
run,
smart.
and they all
That's
run
right.
on, and they're not running on specialized, specialized radio frequency. They're all running on, an internal network, right? We call that IP addresses. We call that the DNS, although that's internal, right? What's exciting about me is that domain names obviously power all of humanity, and therefore 5.5 quickly 6 billion people. And then just imagine all the devices and agents talking to other agents and humans. We see that usage quickly exploding. To give you a frame of reference, like a few years ago, DNS queries were under 10 trillion. Now they're over 14 trillion a month. So that usage of the internet and the domain name infrastructure is only growing, day by day, week by week. People don't think about it, right? It's sort of like just like the air you breathe. They rely on your internet to work. They rely on your devices to naturally work. But the infrastructure is quickly growing, and thinking about like the convergence, right? Thinking about like, hey, where does it all tie together? It does, in my mind, really kind of break down to kind of usage, right? It's all about utility and having that work at scale. on a system that is already functioning, like high capacity. It's like, what do they say? If the system's not broken, you don't need to fix it, right? And that's what I think this is exciting for me.
And I want to kind of jump in a little bit on that. And it's also Pandas, you mentioned a little bit earlier that shorter domains are better, and it's actually true. And now you can have like my Depin.ai, right? Or it could be
Mhm.
the Depin.ai. So
Right.
it could be dictionary words, it could be 3 letters, 2 letters, 2 numbers, 3 numbers, short, memorable, and potentially you can and Fred will go into details how you can use it, but really it's subdomains. With this launch, you can actually have the subdomains. You can have my.depin.ai. You can have quantum.depin.ai. Right? So, and potentially can use it. You can, I believe, rent it, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you can have by owning part of this domain.
Now, you mentioned, Fred, a little bit about convergence. From my perspective right now, it seems like Depin and AI aren't necessarily separate, that they are kind of converging. And I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, again, I put on my kind of programmer CTO brain once again. Devices today are already talking to each other in my home. AI will start talking to my devices. AI will start talking to each other about my devices. AI will start talking to me about my devices. And soon I'll probably just have my AI speak to other AIs purely through the network.
Hmm.
So if I think about utilizing, for example, domain names and Fred's home.dpin talking to Art's home.dpin, I think that could be a reality, right? We all know that the world doesn't talk to each other by way of people typing in IP addresses. Like, just like people don't remember people's phone numbers these days,
Or
I think
wallet
they really
addresses.
just,
Yeah.
exactly, human readable names are critical. You mentioned
Hmm.
Panda, like ENS. ENS is a great Web3 community, right? You could resolve and map and send money from wallets to wallets and stuff, right? That's a
Hmm.
great ecosystem, right, within itself.
Exactly.
The domain name system, just imagine billions of endpoints speaking to each other versus millions. I mean, that's the kind of scale we're talking about. So that's, again, kind of AI convergence and DeepIn. It's already, like, to me, happening from purely a low level sort of primitives perspective. Everything else we start building on top of. But I do like to think about human readable stuff. I'm not going to tell my agents to, like, talk in terms of IP addresses, MAC addresses, nor giant wallet addresses, right, that are prone
Mhm.
to error and hacking and phishing. I'm going to utilize simple naming. It's just more intuitive that way.
Yeah, it's and I'll kind of jump on the tail of it. Yeah, it's definitely like and as you mentioned, wallets. Yeah, wallets are ridiculous, right? Very confusing, very hard to remember, not intuitive at all,
Mhm.
and this would be definitely one of the solutions for machines. Machines also require some versions of security. You don't want to get it to get hacked, right? So Web3 is really good technology for that, and yet uh, you want also somebody who can navigate and direct those machines, and AI. That's what plays a role. So it's I think we're very early in the cycle. I still believe Depin is one of the bigger going to be the bigger plays, just because think of all the conglomerates and massive companies. They're all building right now upgraded by robots, right? Machinery. And robots are the next wave. We know, we see it everywhere.
Mhm.
The Tesla jumping on the robots, the Chinese companies jumping on the robots, everybody's jumping on the
It's
robots
everywhere.
everywhere. But that's Depin.
Mhm.
Robots are the Depin.
They'll rely heavily on Depin.
Yeah, like meaning like you need to run on something, right? You need to have
Mhm.
framework. You need to have somebody navigating, which is AI. But decentralized physical infrastructure is basically any machines that can communicate with each other.
I don't know if you guys have seen the errand robots they're like kickstarting right now. They're not fully functional, but I've seen a few different companies where they have like, a 6 foot tall robot that's supposed to be washing your clothes, and they say it's only a few years from being being out. But one of the companies did get caught. They said it was a live demo, but they actually saw that it was. They admitted there was a guy with a VR headset like in the other room. But either way, very exciting times with these robots. I'll probably get one of these days whenever they get out the initial kinks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's moving. Like we just saw the robots doing a flip, right? Recently, there was a robot that did a whole flip, which was supposedly impossible. So
Uh-huh.
we're moving. We're moving.
Moving in the
I
right
also
direction.
saw on stage there was like a concert in China, I think. There was like 20 or 30 robots doing like the synchronized dancing. That was
Yes,
nuts.
I saw that. Yep. And they even have the robot fighting. Yeah. The robots are
Oh,
taking over.
I was in China recently, and literally there's a robot. Like you go into elevator, and there is a robot in the middle of it, and it's
Really,
just like
just
kind of
saying.
standing there. You're going like, oh, am I go left? Am I going right? Am I going around? And it just goes like fourth floor, and just goes out, goes to its own outlet, or delivers food.
Mm-hmm.
So in China, it's actually robots are part of restaurants, part of hotels, so they're
They're
further ahead.
integrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, back a little bit to the domain topic. How does the subdomain control work technically on the Doma platform? So, when someone's going to be buying the Depin.ai tokens, how are they going to participate in the subdomain decisions and potentially revenue?
Yes. So again, one of my favorite topics, but I wanted to back up one second. Just
Sure.
want to emphasize when we talk about decentralization, I just want to remind folks once again, the domain name system is basically one of, or if not the first, most functional decentralized systems out there, right? There's this whole system called ICANN. They're a global nonprofit. Decades ago, they came up with this whole system for basically like countries or commercials or even governments to use extensions like .com or .ai, which is actually owned by the country of Anguilla, now privatized for commercial use,
Wow.
right? The whole system has actually been pretty decentralized since day one. So there's a lot. I tell this a lot to my friends and also colleagues. There's a lot, and family. There's a lot more similarities between crypto uh, and this whole concept of decentralization through like things like the DNS, the domain name system, than people think. And my job is obviously here to kind of just educate more. And yeah, it was great seeing Art at our last conference in Vegas last year. Things that we continue to try to do to kind of promote more and more education on this stuff. But back to domain names and subdomains. So subdomains are great. You mentioned we also talked about ENS earlier, right?
Mhm.
And other projects, and also with .coms. I'll give you an interesting fact. 2-letter and 3-letter .coms are super valuable. They're super, and even like the Chinese love 3-letter .coms, for example.
Mhm.
This is like a fact. They trade in these private markets. It's almost like the weirdest, most obscure terms or numbers, like
Right.
012 or something like that,
But
or
that has immense value.
1gx.com.
Yep.
They have extreme value and sort of more underground trading value, right?
Mhm.
That exact kind of dynamic translates to subdomains. As Art mentioned, having my.dpin.ai or fred.dpin.ai, there's not 100% correlation, but everybody kind of knows both in the Web 2 and Web 3 world that like a shorter like dictionary word or something short and memorable is more valuable than something's longer, right?
100%.
There's GPU dot, there's LLM dot, there's DeFi dot, there's crypto. I mean,
Web
to give you a
3
frame of
dot.
reference,
Exactly. Yep.
Web3 dot, to give you a frame of reference, there's about 170 million .com addresses out there, right? It's those characters in front of like a .com, 170 million. So when I said earlier that if we think about this future where AI, deep in crypto, can explode, the value of that land starts basically of the premium land starts basically becoming more valuable, right?
Right.
Versus the longer stuff will be represent more like that medium to long tail. Uh, a lot. So subdomains will follow basically a tier pricing. So how it works is if you buy, for example, one token or even 10,000 or 100,000 tokens of dollar sign or dpin.ai, it'll give you the right to either a longer or a shorter subdomain. As simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And once you buy a subdomain name with one of these tokens, you can immediately map it to your wallet address. You can then set up your website. Eventually, you'll be able to set up your email. Right, so full DNS utility from day one. And a lot of people from the domain industry, which I've known for 25 years, they like to get in early. Just imagine if you got in early on getting pets.com or drugs.com or like
Exactly.
amazon.com in the 90s.
Yeah, it was the gold
There is
rush.
exactly. In this case, it's like a land rush,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's people staking their claim early. Whether they build it out or not or use it is kind of a different story.
Yep.
But when you create one of these things, they never go away.
Mm-hmm.
And so digital real estate is very much, in my opinion, like physical real estate. Like you want the best land in Manhattan and in Malibu versus the land, for example, which is still valuable in like the Midwest. That's the way to kind of
Exactly.
think about that, the usage and ownership. Now sort of democratizing it for this like very obvious piece of internet land with Depin.ai.
Mm-hmm. Especially any projects that launch in the Depin space, or anybody who gets involved in any projects in a marketing perspective or in any sort of way, I just feel like there's so much use around the domain Depin AI. It fits such a large net. So I'm really excited to see how this all progresses. I did want to ask quickly, when someone becomes a token holder, how does the entire process start to finish? Just curious, yeah, essentially how the process works.
One of the owners, for example, of this domain name would
Mm,
like Art would basically, like I said, tokenize it at a registrar on Doma. Immediately, will create basically a call it 1 million fungible supply, like ERC20 tokens off of this
yep.
domain name, right?
Hmm.
And at that point, it'll follow a typical bonding curve. So, and then when the bonding curve graduates, the pool will be created, the LP will be created, and at that point, people can basically trade freely, much similar to how you can buy and sell a fungible token on a DEX, like a Uniswap, for
Right.
example. At that
Hmm.
point, it's a free floating currency, right? But for the first time in history, he and others can be able to like sell and actually sell a portion of his domain name
Right.
through this token. The token is not the end goal. The end goal is utility, because when you buy, like I said, one token of Depin.ai, you have the right to basically get a subdomain and something that works, right? So we like to stress that this is all about utility and global sort of compatibility, being able to speak and talk to all humans and agents and physical devices off of one base domain name like Depin.ai. That's never been able to be done before in the history of the domain system until now.
And I do want to mention that exactly like the beauty of for people who wants to hold it is domains like that. It's not like meme token where it has no real value other than haha it's fun, right? There are a couple
Right.
of meme tokens that we know Dogecoin that earn their stake, but reality is millions of or tens of millions of those meme tokens has no value. Whereas with domain, you have intrinsic value that can sell. For
Hmm.
example, recently Wisdom.ai sold for 700K. Like it's a
Wow.
significant amount for .ai. Well, Fire.ai recently sold for 1.1 million. X.ai was bought for by Elon Musk. Like through the grapevine, we hear millions of dollars. So those
Wow.
names immediately have intrinsic value. It's not just like here's just buy some tokens. No, the reality is if Depin can sell at some point, whoever holds token, they will get portion of the proceeds as well.
Okay. So there's
Chat.com.
there's revenue share with the tokens as well.
Yeah. Like they
Yeah.
owning real asset. Like the really is Depin sells. They're gonna get whatever that differential.
Proportional. Right. Wow. I remember you guys talking a little bit about revenue, but I didn't realize that was going to work in that way. That actually changes it entirely. Not only are you going to be able to have that subdomain, but also the potential revenue stream as well. So that is very, very cool.
Yeah, it's to me, it's because if we're in Web3 and we're doing about tokenization of assets, then the domains are perfect vehicle for this. And
Mhm.
then for me personally, I thought, hey, listen, I have this vehicle, Depin, that is, we can all relate to. It's a massive sector. AI is massive space as well. They're fusing together, lets people own part of that asset that is really, really, really in demand right now.
You just mentioned the .ai domains, a lot of them becoming quite valuable, in particular X.ai selling to Elon and a few others. I was curious what you thought the bull case was for Depin.ai and what you may think it might look like in a year to 3 years.
I mean, depend. I think AI is first of all, like from the main perspective, that AI is the hottest asset right now. Like much more independent .coms, .ios. That you mentioned it. .ai has been on a tear the last 3 years. So
Yep.
just from pure asset quality, it's keep doubling. I think every year. So it just keep going higher and higher and higher. Demand is, extremely high. So I cannot be more bullish. Look at Gemini.ai, Character.ai, Mistral.ai, right? All those companies, Perplexity.ai, X.ai, they're all built on .ai because it makes sense. It's in marketing.
Yep.
You want to make it easier. You don't want to explain to somebody that's AI. You just
Exactly.
want to make it easy. Boom, done. So I think as an asset, it'll go up. I think as utility it can go up. As a sector, it will go up. I mean, I don't know how else to say, but
You're bullish.
somebody who's been in the industry, exactly,
Yes.
who's seen it, who advises startups in Techstars and Columbia University, and I was a guest judge in Denver last year, and I judged different startups sectors. I was a global mentor. I can say it has to be real world applications, and to me, Depin, which is by the way, like in this case, Doma does the real world assets. It kind of does that intersection of all of the above in a very, I would say to me, bullish sector, especially if the whole crypto goes up. Depin will be one of the leaders.
Absolutely. Fred, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I just wanted to add that for Depin.ai token for the domain name, right? We are going to do what we think about as a fair launch, which means no VCs, no sort of pre-sales. This is not a VC token. Right? The reason why we chose this approach is because we kind of want to democratize this whole access to the token and also utility. There's nothing between the owners, basically, and someone who wants to buy and use this stuff, right? It also doesn't mean that some VC is going to come in and basically buy it and then pump it and then sort of dump it, right? We like to think about it in terms of as fair as possible. So if you think about price discovery first sort of 24 hours or so, think about grabbing your name. If you think about just sort of a community around you that also wants to sort of participate in this asset class, we like to focus much more on that, and of course give Art the ability to really leverage and grow this asset class with the remaining supply of this token over the coming, months and even years. And from my end, immediately what happens post launch is these subdomains will be claimable the moment Depin.ai bonds, right? And then after that, they'll immediately be tradable as well in the marketplace. We think that that'll be exciting way to kind of get more people buying and also sharing with their friends and stuff. This great utility.
And also, it's going to be first come, first serve. I think we should mention it. So basically, whoever grabs the first subdomain, they hold that subdomain, right? So that's
Right.
So I think we should probably mention it. Like it's pretty cool feature.
GPU.depin.ai. Bet's going. Who's going to grab that first for how much? Just kidding. But you could put on your imagination, right?
And when I am curious, when do you think the first subdomain license or marketplace UI might be?
Well, the UI is already there. If you go to Doma.xyz, when Depin.ai does launch, you'll see it right away. It's no different than going to your favorite, DEX or your favorite SEX, right? It'll look very, very familiar to Web3 and soon, to be honest, Web2 folks too, by way of ease and clarity. We step people through how to buy it. If people don't have a crypto wallet or people don't have bridged assets, we they can do so by just simply clicking on the information bubbles. And like I said, the moment that it bonds with enough liquidity, then people can start buying these subdomains. As the owner, because part of this conversation is to talk to other domain industry folks, right? People who do want to kind of mimic the success of this asset class. The bigger goal for us is simply to kind of allow people to get a piece of this growing sector, kind of participate in this global trend, right? Really access the future of Depin.ai and the DNS.
So the official launch is tomorrow, December 30th at 2 p.m. UTC or 9 a.m. EST. And I'm curious from both you guys, what might we expect tomorrow just after launch? You guys have any predictions of
fireworks? All right.
Fireworks?
It's gonna be explosive. No,
Yeah.
seriously, the robot's gonna overrun us. No,
right.
not yet.
Robot.depin.ai.
But everybody gets it's a fair launch. So it means anybody, it's first come, first serve. You want a subdomain, you come and get it. The first person, you want, I don't know, fun.depin.ai, you can
That's
be the
cool.
first one to get it.
I actually like that one.
So only your imagination. My advice to anybody, keep it short and dictionary word or 2, 3, 4 letters max, short, pronounceable, easy. And if you want to build something in it, if you want to hold it an asset, it's all up to you.
Yep. Plenty either. Yeah, exactly. It can either be an investment that you use and hold, or you can build off of it. So pretty exciting stuff, especially with the entire Depin sector within tech. It's ever growing year after year. So being able to secure a domain, like you're saying, a project name or just a short and sweet Depin.ai domain, I think just is clear has immense value as time progresses. So very, very exciting stuff. Really glad I got to sit down and talk to you guys. We are kind of in the end portion of this AMA. I'm curious if either of you guys have any conclusion statements or anything else that you guys want to share with the audience.
I guess that GPU.Depin.ai will go super fast. That's my prediction.
You think so?
Within minutes.
Yeah, I think so. I think that one you mentioned like my or those ones should go pretty quick.
I'll take cloud, robotic, or computing. Anything generic dictionary word is good. My takeaway is it's I think Depin is one of the hottest sectors in crypto. It will be hotter and bigger because devices growing all around us, and it's not slowing down. With AI as well, both domains.ai and the sector.ai is growing. So Depin.ai is a great overlap. So you don't have to put, the beauty is you don't have to buy a domain and spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. You can spend a few $100 and just be part of the action. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And when you think, like you're saying, growing sectors, Depin, an amazing growing sector, AI, growing sector, and this is Depin.ai. It's just the perfect domain for what we're going to be seeing over the next 2 to 10 years. So really, really exciting to sit down with you guys. Lastly, Fred, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Maybe any additional information about Doma, stuff that we maybe haven't covered yet, or any just fun information that you have for the audience?
Well, like I said, for the first time in history, you can own, trade, expand the usage of an awesome domain name like Depin.ai. And you can only do it through Doma.xyz. So super excited about this.
Yeah, it was wonderful talking to you guys. I'll be watching the launch quite closely. And I might go ahead and grab a domain as well. I'm not going to say it on the video because I don't want anybody to snipe my idea.
Don't want to get sniped.
Yeah, I don't want someone to run a bot and snipe it from under me. But very exciting times. And really appreciate all of you guys hopping on early in the morning, and good luck on the launch.
Yeah, thank you very much.